Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast live. Yes. All right, so we're gonna wait a few minutes, let some people get in the chat, then we're gonna go ahead and get it rolling. All right. So we got a pretty good show for you here tonight. But before we get started, and we're going to talk some John Sally on LeBron James. Very interesting comments from him on Gil's Arena. We're going to talk Dak Prescott and his contract situation, and we're going to get to all of that. But before we do, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. All right. So a couple of quick notes before the sports, and we'll get to that in a second. We are close to reaching our goal for this month of reaching 2,000 subscribers on the channel, and we are desperately trying to reach that before the end of this month. So we got a few days left. So make sure you're not only liking the videos, subscribing to the channels, but if you're enjoying the content that we're putting out there, please make sure you go ahead and share the channel with other people you know that might want to hear a different voice on these major sports topics. All right. And secondly, I know this is a long weekend and we're celebrating Memorial Day on Monday. So I just want to take a second to talk about that. As a United States Army veteran, Memorial Day is definitely important to me. We know how many amazing people have given their lives, made the ultimate sacrifice in service to this great nation. And so I just wanted to go ahead and I wanted to take a moment to just have some silence real quick and just pay homage to those. A lot of people get Memorial Day and Veterans Day mixed up, but Memorial Day is for our fallen, those we've lost in the line of service. So a moment of silence for all of them. All right. So let's get right to it, man. Let's make that move. And here's the deal. Just about every offseason, we see moves and we see trades in the NFL, but one of the biggest storylines is always the big contract negotiations. And in the NFL, it's totally different than the NBA because everything is not perfectly set up to where if you hit certain metrics, you get paid a certain amount, and that's that, right? And the money in the NBA is generally fully guaranteed, et cetera, et cetera. But in the NFL, it's so different how much money you're going to get annually, how much money you're going to get total guaranteed, how much money you're going to get fully guaranteed, how much money's in incentives, blah, 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 right? So we always want to hear about the negotiations and how much this guy's getting, how much that guy's getting, because that's one of the most interesting things in the NBA. Because why? How much this guy gets or that guy gets directly affects how much the other players on the team are going to get because it's a hard salary cap league. All right. So this summer, we already saw Detroit Lions quarterback Jared Goff get a new deal. His deal was 4 years, $212 million with 113.5 million guaranteed at signing and total guarantees of 170 million. So he's probably going to see 170 million dollars, and that's pretty good money for a second tier quarterback that has 4 career playoff wins, a trip to the Super Bowl, which he did lose. So we got to make sure we acknowledge that winning the Super Bowl and going to the Super Bowl is two different things, but it is hard to get to a Super Bowl in the NFL. Regardless, you play to win the game, right? What do we say, Herm?
You play to win the game.
There you go. So with all that, that's still a really good deal for Jared Goff. So happy he got his. Now, we're also waiting to see what happens in Miami with Tua Tagovailoa, their quarterback, and we're also waiting to see what happens in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, their quarterback. So these are two of the major contracts that we're waiting to see if they even get done this year, right? So NFL quarterbacks, especially for NFL contracts, especially for quarterbacks, they're kind of weird the way they're set up, right? So who's up next is not always the best, but who's up next might get paid more than the best. So I don't really agree with that, but among the first and second tier guys, that's normally how it works. So the big name in this situation this summer now, still waiting for a deal, is Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. Now, if you watch the channel and you're familiar with me, you know how I feel about Dak Prescott. And even though he's a guy who made second team All Pro last season, which he probably wouldn't have if Kirk Cousins and Brock Purdy hadn't had injuries, to me, he is not a guy who should be resetting the market. And I've been yelling this for years. Now, it seems like Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, his son, have finally figured this out. And let's look at some important numbers. Dak Prescott is under 500 when he has to throw 40 or more times. So if you have an elite quarterback, a market resetting type quarterback, you shouldn't have to worry about likely losing the game when you put the ball in his hands. He's also under 500 when he doesn't have a 100-yard rusher in his career. Another situation where, as important as the running game is, if you have an elite quarterback, market resetting type guy, you shouldn't have to depend completely on the run game. He is a guy who has to have a lot around him to be the type of player that he is at his ceiling. And I think we saw his ceiling this past season, making second team All Pro, throwing for, I think, like 4,500 yards and was like second or third in the league in touchdowns. I didn't put that in my notes. But the point is, this is not a guy that you should max out and reset the market with. It's just not. Now, can you have success with him? Yes, of course. Can you have strong regular seasons? Yes, of course. The Dallas Cowboys have won 12 or more games in the last 3 regular seasons. Okay. But can Dak Prescott take you there and take you where? Take you to even a conference championship game? No, he cannot. And the empirical evidence says that because it simply has not happened. So that is not a guy that, in my estimation, you should be maxing out. He has 2 playoff wins in his career. 2. 1, 2. Not 1, just 2. All right. Now, to get paid like the guy, at least in my eyes, you have to play like the guy when it counts most. And I'd love to see Dak play out this season. Like, i.e., I want to see the Joneses not pay him, let him play out this season, and then test the market. And the reason I want that to happen is because he will see that no one on the market is going to make him the highest paid player ever. That's just not going to happen because he's not that guy. He will see that everything off the field that he's got that comes with being the Dallas quarterback is going to make up the difference in him not being the highest paid. Like, we know that when you're in certain markets, the stuff that happens for you off the field or off the court can make up the difference in you not having the biggest contract, right? If you're in New York, if you're in LA, if you're in Dallas as the Cowboys quarterback, it can make up the difference. Now, Dak knows that. He knows that. But, so last time Dak was up, Jerry Jones made him wait and watched while the price went up and up. I think he franchise tagged him twice, which was pretty stupid. And if that's what you wanted to do, Jerry Jones, that's cool. But then you blew it because you capitulated and you made Dak Prescott the highest paid player ever, while also giving him no trade and no franchise tag clauses in the deal. What were you thinking, Jerry Jones? Like, what was that? You got absolutely nothing you wanted, and all you did was pay more than you had to. It doesn't make any sense. What was the point in waiting to pay him if you knew you were just going to completely cave in? I don't get that. All right, so back to 2020, because that was 2021. Dak is up for another contract, and the Joneses are making it clear that they want him, but not at the top number. Especially, they got to re-sign CeeDee Lamb, and I think they got a couple other guys whose contract they got to work on. Micah, I think, is coming up next year, so they got to be careful about that too. So they want him back, but not at the top. Maybe Mike is coming up this year. But the point is, they got some big name guys that they need to pay along with Dak. And Dak, again, is not a guy who is a market resetting type quarterback. So I don't know what they're going to do. So Dak was asked about all this recently at Cowboys minicamp. And needless to say, he had some very interesting comments. So let's hear those, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Because believe me, when I heard him, I was like, what? All right, check it out.
Business is business. I'll leave it where it gets handled. Right now, it's about being my best for this team right now in this moment. OTA is helping these guys out and just focused on that. And I know my business will take care of itself. And so been in it before, experienced, and just controlling what I can right now.
Why have you been able to be so patient when it comes to the business?
I don't play for money. Never have, never cared for it, to be honest with you. Yeah, would give it up just to play this game. So I so I allow that to the business people to say what it's worth, what they're supposed to give a quarterback of my play, a person of my play, leader of my play, I guess you can say. And for me, it's about, as I said, control. I can control and handle that part, and the rest will take care of itself.
Going back to what you were saying about a business, a lot of times sometimes guys get upset and go like, well, it's a matter of respect. Do you draw that line and go, business isn't about respect, business is something else, or does respect come in there? Because that's where sometimes guys get crossways with.
Yeah, I think it just depends. I think it depends on person, relationships, and honestly position and how much that pay can affect others. Understanding where I am, what my pay means to a team, to an organization, I don't really take things personal. Maybe in my first deal, right, things were a little different than they are now, and that's one, my age, one of who I am, where I am in my life, and I guess the fact that first deal got done, the understanding that at this point I have a lot of decision in this too. I have a lot of say so too. So it's about understanding business is business, and for me, as I said, it's controlling what I can, and that's making sure I'm the best player that I can be right now.
All right, so long quote there, but Dak Prescott, he's saying all the right things. He is. But he's also flat out lying. Dak, you're lying. He said he doesn't play for money. He said he never has. He said he'd give up the money just to play this game. What? Come on now. Come on. I guess he thinks we're dumb, right? That doesn't even sound like it makes sense. Maybe he went to the LeBron James school of answering the question the right way, right? I don't know. Maybe he did. But again, listen, I get that he has to say all the right things as the quarterback and the face of the organization. And not just any organization, but the most well-known and valuable sports franchise on this earth, according to Forbes, the Dallas Cowboys. So he can't be up there saying, hey, Jerry, give me my money. I ain't playing with you, right? He can't be out there like that. He's got to say and do the right things and present the right image. What is it? You catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right? I think that's how it goes. So I totally get it. But you don't have to go out there and play us like we're dumb and just lie. Like, that's not cool. But even still, is Dak forgetting that the evidence is already out there? Is he? So let's take a look. Spotrac.com has every contract listed because we know sports contracts, they're basically public information. So once Spotrac gets all the information, they put it out there. And so we can go look up Dak Prescott's last deal, the one that reset the market. So let's check it out, Mr. I don't play for money, never have. All right, so Dak Prescott, as we can see, his last contract was 4 years, $160 million, which again reset the market and was the highest ever at that time. He had a signing bonus of $66 million, guaranteed his signing $95 million, total guarantees of $126 million. So 4 years, $160 million, and that at the time was the largest quarterback contract of all time. Did he deserve that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because in his early years, even when he won Offensive Rookie of the Year, he got that because he was a quarterback. But Ezekiel Elliott rushed for over 1,600 yards that year. So it's a lot easier to have success as a quarterback when you're always ahead of the chains and everything is coming off the play action. But I digress. The point is, he got his money and he wasn't joking around. He did it. Okay. So let's not, I know you got to say the right thing, Dak, but let's not be disingenuous or let's not flat out lie. Okay. So we can see that this is a guy who's earned a little more than what, $126 million. No, I'm sorry, $162 million for his entire career. and that his last contract was 4 years for 160 million with 95 million guaranteed at signing, including a $66 million signing bonus that I just showed you. In case you need to see that again, let me put it back up here so you can see right in the middle of the page, 4 years, 160 million, average salary of 40 million, signing bonus 66 million, guaranteed at signing 95 million, total guarantees of 126 million dollars. So Dak was very nicely compensated for a guy who says he never played for money, and he'd give it all up just to play this game. Now, that said, it's a lot easier to say that on your second extension once you've already gotten that life-changing money and you're set forever. I get it, but at the same time, again, disingenuous. All right. And the game of football on the NFL level is physical and violent, and any play could be your last. You literally could be risking your life out there. Now, the game is a lot safer than it was, but still, anything could happen. We saw Damar Hamlin almost die on the field last year. So up 2 years ago, I'm sorry. A lot of things can happen in the game of football. We also know that being the most popular sport in the United States, the game is printing money. And so all these owners are making a killing. So the players should be well compensated also, being that they're the commodity, right? Now, that said, if there was to be a holdout or something, obviously the owners are going to win because they have more money than the players do. They can afford to hold out longer. But the fact is this, Dak, I don't like when people do that. I just don't, man. That was not cool at all. You're trying to play us like we're dumb. And I personally am insulted that you would stand up there and say that. And, maybe if I'm that reporter, I don't know, but if that reporter was one of the more pushy ones, maybe he pushes back and say, Dak, you just said that you never played for money, but your last contract, you were the highest paid player in the history of the league. So what do you mean you never played for money? You want to expand on that? So, maybe you push back a little bit. That's kind of not cool. But anyway, we get it that you got to maximize your earning potential in this game, and that's fine. Even if you aren't good enough, but the market says you can get more than you've earned, you got to take it, because in the NFL, the way those contracts are, they can pretty much cut you at any time if they're willing to take that salary cap risk. They can force you to redo your deal. So the NFL is tough in terms of the players. Now, that said, the players union needs to get more of a spine and stand up and be willing to fight for what they want, like the other sports did. If you do that, then guarantee it'll happen, right? But anyway, yeah, I really didn't like Dak Prescott saying what he said there. Now, that doesn't mean if you're Dak, you got to get in front of the microphone and lie to us and about how you never played for money. You give it up just to be able to play the game. But also, again, like I said earlier, you're not going to be out there saying, yo, Jerry, where my dough at? Before I show up at your house with the burners, right? You can't do that either. You can't be ignorant and acting the fool. But at the same time, just, be honest. Hey, I totally understand this is a business. And he did say the business is the business, and I'll leave it to the business people. But you could have left out the part about playing for free and all that stuff. All right. So, Dak, one word for you, man. Stop. And Jerry Jones, don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't cave in. Make this guy the highest paid player in the history of the league again. Don't do it. Force him to play this year. And if you're going to re-sign him next year, but force him to play this year, then make him test his value on the free agent market. And when he sees that other teams are not going to pay him what he wants, he'll come crawling back with his tail between his legs, and he'll take pretty much what you offer. Because if you offer a competitive deal, he'll also see all the value in being the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, and he will capitulate. Don't do it, Jerry. Be patient. All right. That'll be the last I got to say on that. If there's anybody who wants to call in, give me their thoughts on whether it's an NFL topic or an NBA topic or this Dak Prescott topic we just talked about, go ahead and call in. Numbers at the bottom of the screen was at 904-219-8264, I believe. We'll see it coming back over. I should have memorized that by now, right? But 904-219-8264. There it is. Got it in the old noggin now. 904-219-8264. So anything you want to talk about before I get out of here, go ahead. Give me a call. I don't care if it's the LeBron Jordan debate or if it's the NBA playoffs and Luka, or if it's Ant Edwards, or if it's Dak Prescott or another NFL topic, or anything you want to talk about, really. Go ahead and give me a shout. My man Antoine, what's up, brother?
Oh, okay. Just bear with me on this one, man.
Yeah.
different opinion about it.
You good, man?
So, what I think the issue with the Cowboys is
Mm-hmm.
the fact that their president and the general manager is the same person.
Correct.
And
Correct.
and if they want any, measure of success,
Mm-hmm.
that dynamic has to change. I don't care how much they pay Dak or if they get someone else in. As long as that dynamic is the same, they're not going to win.
I agree, but I don't think Jerry Jones. Remember, I talked earlier in the John Sally segment talking about LeBron, and one of the things I said was there are people who want to win, but they want to win their way, so they would rather lose than not win their way. That's Jerry Jones, because remember, back in the 90s, they were winning and dominating with Jimmy Johnson, right?
Yep.
Jimmy Johnson picked the players. Jimmy Johnson coached them up. They won 2 Super Bowls, but Jerry Jones's ego could not deal with it, so he fired Jimmy Johnson, brought in Barry Switzer. Figures anybody could coach this team. He won another championship with that roster, and after that, they have not seen a conference championship game since. So I hear you, but some people got to win their way. Go ahead.
Yeah, you literally said the thing that I was going to say, because it wasn't that he built that team. Jimmy Johnson built that team.
He did.
To what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And they benefited from what he created. And when you got these owners, and he's different than most owners. He wants his name. He wants the fact that he spent the money to get these players. He set up the situation.
Mm-hmm.
He wants that notoriety. But at the same time, it doesn't work that way. A team has to be built. A coach has to be there. A president has to be there. A general manager. You need folks that know what they're doing and
Mm-hmm.
just cut the check.
Football people.
He's incapable, right? And he's incapable of doing that, obviously.
Well, I will say that over maybe the last 8 to 10 years, maybe 10 years or so, Stephen Jones has had a lot more say. Stephen Jones is really like keeping him from doing a lot of stupid things. Remember, he wanted to draft Johnny Manziel. Stephen Jones was like, no, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take Zach Martin, right? And that turned out to be, a guy who's going to be a Hall of Famer on the O-line. So,
but to that point, he only has so much autonomy to really do the job that needs to be done.
That's true.
This team want to be successful. And the fact of the matter is, you not only do you blame the owner, you also blame the fans, because they don't have the incentive to change, because no matter what, they're the number one team. They're selling out with jerseys. They're selling out with tickets and all of those things. So he genuinely don't have a incentive to change that or what he's been doing, because he's still getting that money.
Yeah, you're right.
Because the people are so enamored with the idea of what the Cowboys are, not what they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to Dak, this is my opinion, and this for all football players. Next to war, this is a extremely physical sport.
Yes.
Now, we've seen the game where this man's foot was turned sideways.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
And even up until that point, he was playing lights out. So, not just for him, for all players, it's just a physical and mental game. So, it's not like the NBA and soccer where they have these insane guaranteed contracts. The football is so incentive-based. I think it's genuinely unfair to a lot of these players because of what they have to physically and mentally go through. Because and I'm sure you're extremely knowledgeable, and your podcast shows this. Football basically was an imitation of war, how they set up things.
So
stuff like that.
It's funny that you say that, right? Because I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and so I've taken leadership courses and served in the Army for 9 years and instructed, etc. And when I was in journalism school, one of my first projects, I actually did a comparison between the military and war and American football, and I actually did. I'm sure I have that PowerPoint somewhere. But the point is, I actually did a project on that, and I discussed it and presented it in front of the class. And so you're absolutely right, and that's why we so often hear the military style references when it comes to football, like going to battle and going to war and so on and so forth. We hear those references constantly because in terms of athletics, I don't know that there's anything else that closely resembles military in terms of the brotherhood and the high level, physically demanding, uh, bodily taxing type of endeavor that it is. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, because I think about when they talk about the locker room talk, that was about football. But when the whole incognito situation happened, they kind of perverted that and made it something that it shouldn't have been publicized, in my opinion. I do think that there are subgroups of jobs that let them jobs be those jobs, or those careers be those careers, not to make it public because context matters.
It does.
We don't know the extent or the history of certain situations that lead us to certain conversations, certain situations. It doesn't justify being rude or anything like that. But my point is, when you're in certain situations, football is a grimy game. You have to. That's a different mentality. You got to run full speed. Some of these players run like 24 miles per hour to hit somebody straight up.
Right. Yeah.
Car collision. What is the mentality that dictates that situation? So, for from us who aren't doing that, or we don't understand that what it takes to even do that, to know that I'm 5'10", 220. This man is 6'4" and 320, and I got to run at him full speed. The dynamics that get that person in the mentality to go through what I was thinking about is different. So I think there's context for everything in the situation, for to not to go so far off topic. When I think about Jerry Jones and what he's done, he's the reason why the Cowboys aren't successful.
Absolutely.
Because he wants to be the face of the organization. He wants to dictate what the coaches do and don't do, and so on and so forth. And as long as that's there, they're not going to be successful. He has to remove himself from those different positions. Let a general manager be a general manager. Let a president be the president. He just has to check. And if he doesn't do that, they're not going to be successful. So that's why I don't blame Dak, because he's balling out. Because he's answering to not only the coach, he's also answering to the owner. And that's making what he does, it hinders what he can actually do because of that dynamic. That's my point.
All right, so definitely some good points there. Let's think about it this way, right? So, I agree with all that. Side note: did you know Jerry Jones has a radio show that he does every Monday during the season?
Yes, I do.
In Dallas, right? So you know how he gets down with that. You know that after every game, as much as the Dallas media is looking for Mike McCarthy and they're looking for Dak Prescott, they're looking for CeeDee Lamb, they're also looking for Jerry Jones to get a juicy soundbite. It shouldn't be that way. And to the point that you made, which I totally agree with, look at the great Robert Kraft. Like, you hardly heard anything from this dude for 20 plus years. Meanwhile, all they doing is stacking up chips, right? But you hardly heard anything from this guy. When did you see Robert Kraft? When it's time to hold up the trophy at the end of the year, right? So
he credits those who actually went out there and did the work. His thing got mentioned a championship, but ultimately it was Tom Brady and it was Belichick.
Yep.
He came after that. And he just cut the check. Well, and that's we live in a society right now that people are empowered to be weak-minded.
Yes.
And that's affecting almost every aspect of sports. It's something like identity politics or whatever it is. It's like they condone weak-minded behavior, and it's infiltrating so many different aspects of sports. It's so hard to watch. So when I see podcasts like yours, Man Down Sports or Juniors Pro, who talk about things exactly the way they are. It's refreshing for someone like me because, I'm gonna touch on your history a little bit.
Okay.
How did you feel? How did you feel when Jordan won? His first and second championship.
How I felt, obviously I wasn't a Bulls fan. I've been a Celtics fan since I was a kid, but I was still thoroughly amazed by it, just watching, the greatness. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Because I remember when I was doing that, I was just like, it encouraged me to want to play. How many
Oh yeah.
people you came out on a bar court? Oh, I'm Magic, or I'm Bird,
Oh
or
yeah.
I'm MJ, whatever. You imitate these things because it was so great. It gave you a certain energy, and that is so snuffed out in sports today. Even whether it's football, basketball, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, all these different players who, put it on my back. I'm gonna take us home. You just do your job. That is almost dead today. So when we get a little sniff of it, like Jokic or and everything, some people that are like, okay, I'm gonna do my thing. It's so rare. That's why these people get celebrated, to a hyperbolic degree because we don't see that anymore. It's almost dead. And unfortunately, what people hate it or love it, it died with COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you on that. And I think well, I want to say, I hope that Anthony Edwards is that guy. Don't know if it's going to be this year, but I'm hoping that he is the guy to kind of carry that mentality forward.
I agree with you, man. I hope so. I like Duncan. And the thing is about the NBA, I like the foreign players almost better than the American born players because the mentality is different. Like Giannis, before he got too famous, it was like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do whatever I can to win.
Yep.
And that's what the players used to do, and I just hope it gets back to that in time.
Oh, you're absolutely right, man. Absolutely right. No, I totally agree with that. Yeah, no, those are great thoughts. Last thing I want to say, getting back to the Dak Prescott thing, and it's not that I don't want him compensated. I'm just saying, like, do it within reason. This is a guy that should never be the highest paid player in the league. And I was just really irritated. I said it a number of times during my little soliloquy there. I'm just really irritated that he stood up there and lied to us the way he did. Like, come on, man, that wasn't necessary.
He was grossly disingenuous.
Yes. Yes.
That.
Right. I didn't think there was any need for that, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, but I just think that's the world we're living in right now.
Yeah.
Not that I'm accepting of it, but that's kind of just where we're at right now. All these different superstars, they just so disingenuous, and it seems to be accepted today. Like integrity and honesty, and just kind of standing as being your own man is something that's dying at an accelerated rate.
It is. That is true. That is true. All right, my brother. I'm gonna leave it there, man. Thanks so much for calling in and talking with me again.
No
really
problem.
appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot, brother.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, team. So we're gonna leave it there for the night. Not bad. Got some good content in and got some got to exchange some ideas with my man Antoine there. Definitely appreciate his call. Again, don't hesitate to share the podcast with other people you know that might want to hear a different and fresh voice in the sports media. Yeah, make sure you're sharing this. Make sure you're liking. Make sure you're subscribing. Appreciate all that. Definitely trying to hit 2,000 subscribers before the end of this month. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. Right? Yes, we can. But anyway, for all of you out there, please enjoy your Memorial Day. Be safe. Don't forget what Memorial Day is really about. Remember all those who fell in service of our great nation. We truly appreciate them, and there's no amount of appreciation that is enough for their sacrifice. Yeah, so be safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll be back with you next time. And I'm out. Peace.